All right, and three, two, one. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another episode of the Conflict Management Podcast slash show. I am your co-host, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Half Man, Half Amazing, the awkward, awesome one, Mr. Main Event, Malik Miles, and my other co-host.
Future Hall of Famer, one namer, back again with your favorite person's favorite podcast, Conflict Management Podcast.
Yes. And so, yeah, if you don't know, we are a MMA martial arts podcast slash show. We talk about news that's going on in the world of MMA slash the UFC. We give our thoughts, opinions, hypotheticals, all that jazz. And I actually have a fun way to start off the show for you. I actually have a little bit of a trivia for you. So I'm I'm,
Okay.
I'm curious for you.
Mm,
Curious to your opinion. My bad.
mm.
It is also 1 a.m. in the morning. So if we feel like we're a tad bit lagging like YouTube loading screen, the Netflix loading screen, that is why. But we're making it happen for y'all because we're here to spread a little bit of happiness, a little bit of joy, and give you something to watch on your commutes while you're doing laundry, while you're washing dishes, while you're driving, while you're working out, whatever you're doing while you're watching, or you're eating and watching this, because I do that too. But top five pay-per-view stars in the UFC. There's five, and I'll give you a hint. They're all guys.
Okay.
For this one, right? The first hypothetical, all guys. Top five pay-per-view stars. Who do you think go on there?
Okay. I'll
I'll give you
go.
two hints, but those two hints will be if you ask for them.
Okay. Uh, Conor McGregor,
Yep, he's number one. Off to a great start.
Anderson Silva.
He's actually not on this one.
Ooh, that's
Hmm.
interesting. Um, Brock Lesnar.
No, he another good pay-per-view star, but he's not on this one.
Hmm.
Let me know when
GSP.
you want a hint. Nope. Let me know when you want a hint. Think
Hmm.
uh two are active fighters, two are retired.
Uh, Israel Adesanya.
He's not on this list, but you're very close. Who is his rival?
Alex Pereira.
Yeah, he's number five, according to this
Hmm.
list. Yeah. And
So
who do you think number two is? Someone that they want to match him up with.
John Jones.
Yep, he's number two. And then you got the three and four who are retired, semi-retired.
Okay. What weight class?
Welterweight.
Hmm.
One's very has a very strong fan base and is a well beloved fighter, and the other one has one of the flashiest knockouts in recent history.
Leon Edwards.
Mm-mm.
Flashiest
I just
knockout.
said that they're retired slash semi-retired,
Oh, okay. That's a good point. Flashiest knockouts 170.
and the other one has a very big fan base, no matter
Okay.
where they go.
Oh, uh, Nate Diaz.
Yeah, maybe as his number three, and then who is number four?
Okay, so that's the big fan base. Now I'm looking for, and this is another 170.
Yeah, flashiest, one of the flashiest knockouts in recent history, who's retired slash semi-retired.
170. And it's not it. Man, this is crazy. Hold on.
He's from your home state.
And this is 170.
Mm-hmm. From your home state. Flashiest knockout and one of the flashiest knockouts of recent history. 170. He's from your home state. He reps it pretty hard.
I give up. I can't
Jorge
keep a
Masvidal.
view. Oh,
Yeah, they have Conor McGregor at one, John Jones at two, three Nate Diaz, four Jorge Masvidal, and a five Alex Pereira. But for the ones who are, you did name a lot of top people because they do have. Um, they say here are some top UFC stars when you look them up on Google: is McGregor, Habib, Nate Diaz, Alexa Grasso. Um, see Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Wei Lee, Rose, Holly Holm, Misha Tate. Then you another people who are mixed in there as well is your George St. Pierre's, your Andersons, your Brock Lesnar's, all the sort, right? But yeah,
I
when you
would love
look
to
them up
know.
on Google,
I would love to know what the criteria was for that top five because
mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're just looking at how many pay-per-views they sold, I would say how many pay-per-views has Masvidal been on? I mean, he was on the title fights with Usman, um, but other than that, I can't remember a pay-per-view he was on. Uh, I would say the Diaz one's a good shout, just because of the type of business he can do, win, lose, or draw. Um,
Alex sells a lot.
yeah, Alex sells a lot.
John
Uh,
Jones sells a lot. McGregor,
yeah, more recently, it's since the last like 4 or 5 fights of his career, I would say John. But there was that period where John was not a really big pay-per-view draw, and he was outside of the DC fights. It's he didn't have a lot of records for the top pay-per-views, and even
there
Khabib.
is
Uh, there was only the last like few ones of his career. Usually,
Connor. That fight with Connor is
yeah,
what sent him to the next level.
yeah,
Like I
Connor
said,
put
every
him over.
Cody Rhodes needs a Roman Reigns
Yeah,
to take them to the next level.
yeah, Connor definitely put him over in that one and brought him up onto that big stage, which I mean, we still haven't really seen anybody else kind of achieve that kind of global celebrity. It feels like.
Mhm. Every Randy Orton needs a evolution.
Well, speaking
The
of John Jones, do you want to get into the UFC 309 review?
Yes. Real quick, I do want to get your opinions on two more things, right?
Yes.
The We'll do one for the guys and one for the females too,
Mhm.
fighters. Who would you say is in your top five? Since we was kind of on the top five stars in UFC type thing,
Mhm.
top five most exciting for you, or your favorite. You could do most exciting. You could do favorites, whoever you want. But we'll do one for the female fighters and then one for the guys.
Okay. So I would say
Let's do
starting
female
with
first. Oh,
yeah, starting with
um,
the female list. Uh, I think you could kind of go mostly in the pound for pound rankings when you're doing this. So like Valentina Shevchenko's got to be there. Zhang Wei Li has to be there. Alexa Grasso has to be there.
of course.
And then it's just about what you want to do with the two last spots because you have options. You have Pena, you have Harrison, uh, you have Tatiana Suarez, you have Natalia Silva. So I would say those first three are locked in for sure. Of Valentina, Whaley, and Grasso. My own personal flavor, I would say from there, Natalia Silva and
Nice pick.
Kay- Kayla Harrison.
Oh, that's a strong five. That's a strong five. I'm actually there's gonna be some overlap, but I'm gonna toss in some. I think my pick's gonna be a little bit different. I'm gonna toss in some not under card, but like people who are on the come up, right?
Mm.
The who I
Rising
think are
star.
really rising stars. That's what it is. Again, 1 a.m. peoples, but rising stars. I think because I was thinking about this, right?
Mm.
It dawned on me. I have Natalia Silva in my list because I think she's exciting.
Mm.
She's one of my favorite new fighters, right? Alexa Grasso. This is no order, right? Because
Okay.
I can't think of like who I want to place right now.
Mm.
But no order. Natalia Silva goes in that list. She's very exciting. Taekwondo black belt. She's been crushing it. She's amazing. Alexa Grasso. Again, former strong. Let me double check. My brain is off.
Flyweight.
Flyweight. Okay. Former flyweight champion. Amazing boxing. Got the jujitsu. Her jujitsu game is growing. It's up to par, right? Like she choked out the second greatest female fighter of all time. Arguably, it's between Amanda Nunes and Valentina that people say are the best of all time for the female division.
Mm.
And Alexa Grasso beat her with a rear naked choke. That doesn't say your jiu-jitsu is top tier. I don't know what else is. Grappling's good all around, just a great fighter. Great personality. All right. I would say another I mean, Valentina's not Valentina. Alexa's already established, right? But
Mm.
as far as to come up, Natalia Silva, Wen Kong, she, she is exciting.
Is she the one
I know she's very new.
that does the Joker face
Yes,
makeup?
yes, she's
Okay.
very new, but
Yeah.
she's exciting. Yo, to just have the charisma, the just you just know without a doubt, like how people say I'm him, like to know she's just her, right? She's that lady, that girl. Yo, to walk up and just be like coming up, piecing up somebody with the boxing so easily, where you go for a hook and she just walked off. Like this ain't boxing. You're in a cage. Like someone could get up and still chase after you. Just to have that level of confidence to know, like I'm just go bing and then walk off. Like they ain't getting back up. I think is insane, like crazy for someone to, but that was, I think, her debut. I'm not mistaken. If I'm not mistaken, true. But I realized her reason her kickboxing is so good is she's one of the few people outside of. There's only three people who have, I think, to my knowledge, who have beaten Valentina Shevchenko. Um, Amanda Nunes, Alexa Grasso, and Wang Kong. Because they said, obviously Amanda Nunes and Alexa Grasso beat her in the UFC, but they said that the reason also Wang Kong fought her and beat her in kickboxing back in the day or whatever it was. So I was like, oh, that's why your kickboxing is so elite. If that's the competition you were going against, like clearly you're going to clear the division. She's fighting actually this weekend. Um, hey, if she's fighting, I'm watching. Any of the women on this list, if Natalia's fighting, I'm watching. If Alexa Grasso was fighting, of course I'm watching. Picking it. But I would say fourth, I'm saying Lupi Godinez. She got the striking, she's got the grappling, she's got the her just like cardio, like she's all pressure. I remember when she hit that girl with an 8-piece combo, said ping 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 ping, and then hit the blast double on her. I said, "Ooh." She fighting 5 times in 1 year. I think she has the record for female fighters of most times you fought, most fights, five like most fights and most wins in a single calendar year. I think she has like five. She's on that Kevin Holland type thing. So that's four, right?
Mhm.
And I said Kayla Harrison. Like, I feel like it's hard not to watch Kayla Harrison and not be like, that's exciting. She is exciting. Like, um, that judo style, that like style, and like like Shinsuke Nakamura said, that strong style. She coming through just with the elbows, just yeah. You know what I mean? Like because her fight with Holly Holm still sits in my brain, still sits in my memory. Yo, she's got the judo, she's got the striking, like she's got the cardio. I think she's she's excitement fighting, right? Um, all these women are like, I
Mhm.
think you put any of them on a card, that card does them. It's gonna be a good time. Lex is on a
Mhm.
card, it's gonna be a great fight. Natalia Silva's on a card, it's gonna be a great fight. Um, Loopy's on a card, great fight. Um, the Kayla Harrison on a card, great fight. Wen Kong, we're still left to see, but I think also a great fight. Uh, Male fighters, who do you got?
Okay. For this one, uh, I think it would be better if we did like a draft style. So
Okay,
you pick one, I pick one, and we do that each until we have five. Because there's a lot of exciting ones, and there's like some obvious ones, I think, and there's some less obvious ones that I also think deserve a mention. So I'll let
okay.
you go first.
I'm choosing the Hawaiian legend, the Waianae warrior, the BMF blessed man forever, Max Holloway, Max Bless Express Holloway. You don't get more exciting than Max. Like the spinning back kick to Gaethje, like hiya, that last second knockout, the buzzer beater. If that is the definition of a buzzer beater. That was what, 3 seconds left, 2 seconds left, and they just standing there, standing and banging. Right, they're just like boom, boom. He was winning the fight. He didn't even have to like risk it all. Like he was winning the fight. And he just pointed down to the center of the ring. He did the Max Holloway, pointed to the center ring, and said, "Hey, let's step into a phone booth and like slang and bang." And he was just bink when he fought Calvin Cater. He put up the most significant strikes in UFC history in a UFC match, right? Like, uh, yeah, there's it doesn't get more exciting than the Blessed Express. So yes, that's my first pick.
Okay. Uh, I'm gonna keep going chalk, and I'll take Alex Pereira.
Oh yeah, that's
Dude's never in a boring fight. Great intro. Great, like every time he fights now, there's that stare down moment
oh yeah.
for whoever his opponent is and what they decide to do because everybody feels like they have to have a response to him now. So like you have them in the cage waiting while he like shoots the arrow at them and what they decide to do with that, and then beyond that, once he gets in there and he's staring at them, they all feel like they gotta either stare back or like do some weird stuff. So you have that level of entertainment, and then when the fight starts, like the whole time you gotta have your eyes on the screen because it could just be over in a second. So does all the entertaining that you need, and even has some fun celebrations as well, like the Jamal Hill like pointing
Oh yeah.
the hands.
Yo, the because if I'm not gonna lie, Alex Pereira has the most fun entrance of recent memory. I think he has one of the
Yeah.
best entrants, if not the best. The with the tribal music going on, and then just being like, ah! Like, oh man, it's for anybody who's listened to the audio who wasn't paying attention, hooks being thrown, right? But yes, I think there isn't a boring Alex Pereira fight. If you're watching an Alex Pereira fight, you need to be you're glued in, you're locked in. Yes, it's a good time. I think for me, the next pick that I will make would be the legendary Super Saiyan Charles Do Bronx Oliveira. He is he is excitement. He is entertaining. He is that dude's a dog. You know what I mean? Like he's in the trenches. He's fighting for his life. He's out here. Every fight feels like the a scene out of a movie, right? Like six. He has the most submission finishes in UFC history. He's the first person to have 20 performance bonuses. That means 20 fight of the nights or submissions of the nights or whatever you want to call it. 20 performance bonuses. I think the first, if I'm not mistaken, he's the first fighter in UFC history to collect $1 million in fight bonuses. That means you are just so dope at what you're doing. Just 50K, 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 50K. Over time, you've accumulated a million off just being that kind of a fighter. Uh, he's dangerous on the feet. He's dangerous on the ground. You hit him, you think you got him, and he's just like triangle, rear naked choke. Michael Chandler was throwing him back like that, and then that dude said, hit him with the tongue. Bro, dude, I feel like you cannot you cannot not feel excited when Charles Du Bronx is in your area. You know what I mean? Like, or he's in the cage, not have theoretically, not hypothetically in your area, and he's in the cage. It's a good time.
Yeah. For my next one, I'll go Ilya Taporia.
Ooh, nice.
Another guy who's just can do it all and puts on a show, has closed out and KO'd two of the greatest featherweights of all time, and he's still, it feels like so young in his career. And he can, just like Alex, he can do the other entertainment, but whereas Alex does it more with his intro and involving the crowd, uh, Ilya does it more by speaking. He speaks like 3 or 4 different languages, and
Very impressive.
it's the way he expresses himself. It's definitely in the top tier of UFC fighters in terms of being able to sell a fight and talk trash well, where it's not cringy or forced. It's there's something to it. It adds to the fight excitement. And then when it comes to fight night, I mean, nasty boxing, nasty, clean, technical boxing, and really strong grappling in the weight class. It's he's got it all, and he's got the look. He just seems like a complete superstar, and gonna look really forward to eventually when the UFC gets to Spain and he's headlining.
Yeah, that'll be a fun card. Yeah, he's exciting. My fourth pick, I'm choosing
I think it's your
Shav.
third.
Oh, third? Third?
Yeah, I
Wait, oh,
think
yeah.
it's
I said Max Holloway. I said
Charles Oliveira.
Charles Oliveira. Who was the third one?
This is your third.
Oh, this is my third? Okay,
Yeah.
my bad. Okay, so I said Charles, and then no, Max Holloway, Charles, and my third pick is gonna be the Nomad himself. I believe that's his nickname, the boogeyman of the welterweight division, Shavkat Rakhmonov. I've been telling people about this dude. I feel like since 2020 or 2021. I've been saying since he was on the early prelims that this dude was gonna be a champion. Now he's fighting for the championship. 18 and 0, 100 finishes, not 100 finishes. 18 and 0, 100% finish rate, 9 knockouts, not 8 submissions, all by finish. he's he's doing it to everybody, right? Like he's got you look at his highlights, it's a thing of beauty. Undefeated, going through finishing people first, second, third, right? I think that when you watch a Shavkat fight, it's exciting because you don't know how he's gonna do it.
Mm.
You're like, oh, is it going to be a knockout this time? Is it going to be a submission this time? And he'll be like, oh, you know what? I feel like piecing them up. Boom, boom, boom. Spinning heel kick to your grill piece. um, oh, you were standing up. Okay, here, take this choke real quick, and you know what I mean. Hold this L. I think that even though he doesn't say a lot, man, when he be coming into the cage, it's a good time. It's dominance. It's very exciting to see how he's going to do it. And I think that when he fights Ian Gary, he's definitely beating Ian Gary. And it's just my personal opinion, but I don't see Shavkat losing to many people. Yeah, that dude's a dog. He's
Mm.
he's exciting. He's enjoyable to watch. You never know how he's going to get it done, but you know he will always get it done. That is my choice. I'm
Yep.
starting out with a very strong third.
Yeah. Super
Three
solid
picks.
third one. For my third, I'll go Justin Gaethje, human highlight, win or
Nice.
lose. Some sleep. It's has the wrestling skills, but he just he's just made for war, man. He can't keep himself out of it. So he's gonna get in there, slang and bang, take those risks and take those chances, and it's always gonna be a fun fight. It's always gonna be a highlight, even if sometimes he ends up on the wrong side of it. It's but we've even seen he could put together masterful performances if you don't show up and match his skills. That Tony Ferguson performance during COVID, it's that was a complete masterclass, probably the most complete that we've seen Justin Gaethje. And I mean, he's capable of it all, but when he sees his opportunity, even if it's just there for a moment, he's going to swing for it. So it's definitely can't miss a Justin Gaethje fight.
He's your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. Like you said, the the Ferguson fight, but like the Chandler fight,
Yeah.
that was an insane fight to watch. My fourth pick is going to be the second greatest middleweight of all time, the last style bender, Israel Adesanya, two-time middleweight champion. You know, he's not only styling on folks in the intro, but he's styling on folks in the ring. You know what I mean? He's coming up with, the striking is just on such another level. I feel like when Izzy was when Izzy's in the ring and he's in his flow state and he's moving, he's going, the the only person who's match I feel like is matching Izzy on the kickboxing front, right? Is Alex Pereira. And I think that Sean Strickland got the win over him too. And but I feel like when Izzy, when you think about all of Izzy's highlights, right? You're thinking about when he did have the rematch against Alex, the Paulo Costa, the Kevin Gastelum, you know what I mean?
Mm.
All these, I think that he's had some the Robert Whitaker fight. The dude's a legend, and that's gonna be my fourth pick.
Okay. So for my fourth pick, hmm. Yeah, I get a little bit funky. It's I'll go Diego Lopez. It's
That
Diego
is a
Lopez doesn't have the library that some of these have in terms of longevity and having done it, but what he has shown us thus far has been a guy who gets to the octagon, throws it into fifth gear, and just stomps on the gas and goes right for it. Like he's all gas, no brakes, coming for that KO or the submission. Like just reckless abandon sometimes, going for it, and to the point where against higher level opponents, there's some times where it looks like, oh, like maybe he's gonna get some of that damage himself here instead of inflicting it. But I mean, there's sometimes where he's literally sprinting at his opponent, like going for
Yeah,
that KO. So he's definitely in there of keep your eyes peeled because he's coming.
yeah, he got the waterfall going. You know what I mean? Like he is straight out of a rocket as soon as the fight starts. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen a boring Diego Lopez fight. Like Diego Lopez is always fun. He's always exciting. He's always going for the finish, and he's a beast.
Yeah.
That entire Team Lobo gym is out there being phenomenal. You know, you got Alexa Grasso, you got Diego Lopez, you got Lupi Godinez, you know, like list goes on, you know. I think there's one other fighter I'm forgetting that I feel like always that trains there a lot. I can't remember his name, but my fifth pick, person's closing out my most exciting fighters. My favorite is gonna be that are in fun to watch. I think it's too early to say Kaya Sakura. You know,
Mhm.
uh, Kaya Sakura is like he is exciting. You know, it's 22 fights, 18 finishes. 16 of those finishes are like in the first round. 16 of those 18 finishes are in the first round, which is an insane stat or something like that. I think that it's a little too early for me to put him in there, but instead, what I will do is I will put in the I think like the future face of his division, the face of Japanese MMA today, the prodigy, the phenom, the future champion, putting
Mhm.
it out there. Tatsuro Taira, the kid from Japan, I think Okinawa, Japan, I think, if I'm not mistaken. This dude, future champ material. He's always high energy, always good vibes. The grappling and jujitsu prodigy, the level of the fight IQ this dude has when he's stepping in there, you see, because you know sometimes when you think wrestling, you think jujitsu, you think lay and prayer, it's gonna be a slow like transition. No, no, this dude is coming since the very beginning. He's sitting there with striking. He's took dudes out with a liver punch before. When he goes for the grappling, it's all action. He's going for the body triangle. Oh, now you're gonna get the thing. He's going for a twister. Oh, you're in another. He will transition. You work your way out of that. Boom, armbar. Oh, you working out of the armbar. Boom, triangle. Oh, you trying to work out of that? Oh, he's scrambling to his feet. Now you in a standing guillotine. Oh, you working your way out of that? Flying arm bar. He hasn't done it yet, but I'm sure he could. It is a thing to witness. The
Mhm.
Brandon Royval fight, we saw the heart he had, and like the fight IQ on display of like going against. He went from what 9 to fighting the number one contender, and you saw him put on a champion level performance, fighting a guy who's a former title challenger,
Mhm.
dude who is raw dog is a dog. Like, you know what I mean? Like he is he's that dude. And he stood there toe to toe and like really kind of had him in some like tough situations and really kind of pushed the pace on him in some areas. And like even when he got that pace pushed on him, he still showed like, nah, he showed that dog in him and kind of really kind of stayed in there with him. And I think that, yeah, this dude's 23, just I think prior to Brandon Royval, he was undefeated at like 18, 17 and 0, whatever it would have been. 17 and 1. This dude has potential to go beyond the sky, you know?
Mhm.
I think have a very strong roster.
Yeah, for sure. And for my final pick, I'll take a guy who has never made it past the second round in his entire UFC career, the interim heavyweight champion of the world, the next greatest of all time, Tommy Aspinall.
Nice.
Got that KO power in them hands. He's got the jiu-jitsu that he's been working on since he was a kid. Got it all. And has this like effortless kind of himself, little bit of a swagger, but not too cool for school. You know, it's he's not. I don't know. He's got, especially after this past weekend. It's he's got this like the people's champion, working man's like hero type of aura around him right now. Whereas John Jones is firmly in the like he's doing he's doing the WWE like chicken heel champion playbook of like running out of the ring when Tommy Aspinall comes out and tries to fight him. It's John's in the ring and Tom tries to come into the ring and then John runs into the back with the championship belt and
I
Tom
feel it's
flipped
not a
out
run.
there.
It's more of a roll. He's like he may be like he's rolling out the ring. He's just like still
Yeah,
champion.
yeah,
He's
he's
every
definitely
time
like
he tries to show
staring
up.
at him.
Huh?
He's definitely
Yeah,
staring at it.
yeah.
He
He's
like
just
falls
holding the
back.
belt, just standing outside the ring. He's just being like, hey. He's like Tom is running into the ring. He's like, when they're like John's getting the over on somebody else. He's like, boom, wins the match. He'll be running out there. And then John Jones was like, whoa, not yet. Not yet. You, John Jones may catch, they keep on trying to catch him. And that's how he's like, no, it's not time yet. It really feels like some WWE, like, stuff, the level of like stuff that they're going back and forth about. Because I think that, like, it's very strategic on I feel like on John Jones's part. Like if we're talking about like the promo cuts, right? It feels like John Jones, if he is the Universal Champion, WWE Universal Champion, he's standing in the ring, he's doing his promo cut, he's like, yo, I am the best, I am the greatest, I am him. Don't chat to me. 17 world titles. Who else is doing that? Who's putting numbers up like this? 16. Like, acknowledge your tribal chief. You know what I mean? Like, and then you hear Tom Aspinall's music breaks, and it's just like, bam, I know that's Stone Cold's, but like it's the first one I could think of. And Tom Aspinall standing there at the ramp doing his promo cuts, and John Jones is like, hey, if you want some, come get some. Hey, why don't you meet me in the ring? And then Tom Aspinall was like, hey, promo guy, he runs down to the ring and he's just like, hey, he'll provoke him to come down to the ring. He gets down to the ring, and then right when he gets in the ring, John Jones rolls underneath the bottom rope and goes, we'll fight on my terms. Not yet. And just holds up the belt, and then they cut the commercial, and they'd be like, yep, that's the end of Monday Night Raw. And then they'll be in a little Tom Ass will be in the ring the next week being like, yo, you said anytime, anywhere, what's good? I'm in the ring. I know you're backstage. Come find me, John. Let's do this. I am him. I am the next guy. Let's do this. Where you at? And then waiting for the music to play. And he's like, hey, I know you backstage. Come meet me in the center, like you said last week, and then you'll hear John Jones's music and being like, dun, dun, time to play the game. I know that's Triple H, but like that's again the first thing I can think of. And then you're thinking like Dom's like, finally, hey, we about to do this. And then it'll just be John Jones's music just playing in the background, and then no one's coming out. And he's just like, what is going on? And then all of a sudden you see the little Megatron thing where it just says John Jones, and then you see him on the Megatron being like backstage somewhere being like, you really thought it was coming out, didn't you? That's cute. Like I said, we'll fight on my terms. Not yet, Tommy boy. Not yet, but soon. Not yet, but soon. And you're just like, what I gotta do? What I gotta do to get this fight to happen? Let's do this WrestleMania. No, no running, no do. It's just, John Jones is like, we'll see about that.
Yeah,
That I feel
if this was in the WWE, this would definitely have to end with a steel cage match to make sure that John didn't leave the ring, and that's how they'd wrap up the story.
I think that you know what I think they would do. I don't even think it's about running. I think they would what they would end up doing is one of those like last man standing matches. You know what I mean? Or like an Iron Man match where you gotta or like you gotta win. You know what I mean? Or one of those matches where you gotta win 3 times in a row. You know, you gotta get
Yeah.
3 pinfalls. You know what I mean? Like I really feel like you know what I think it would be. I really feel like it would be a last man standing match and be like, hey, who's really the baddest man? The last man standing, the baddest man standing. You know what I mean? At the end of it, I feel
Mm.
like it would be one of those like last man standing ECW rules type match,
Yeah.
street fight match is trash cans. There's gonna be kendo sticks. Someone's going through the announcements table. You know what I mean? Being like, "Oh, you think I'm running from you? That's hilarious." I was winning championships when you were in diapers or when you were a child or whatever it may have been. You know what I mean? It's like I run from no man, and then he's like, "Hey, what's up then?" Like I'm here. I'm here right now. But I think yeah, someone's going through the announcement table. Someone's getting tossed into a ring post. Chairs are coming out. Someone's getting thrown through a barricade. You know what I mean? Like this is definite kaiju level battle that's about to be happening. I think uh I think that the battle between the two, I think but before that, I will say this, right?
Mm.
Because a lot of people are saying this, right?
Mm.
John Jones is scared. John Jones is ducking Tom Aspinall. John Jones is doing this. John Jones needs this for his legacy. John Jones needs this. Honestly, I think all those comments are just as crazy as the ranking systems putting John Jones as second pound, number 2 pound for pound of all, number 2 pound for pound behind Islam. How do you have the literal record 17 title fights, 16 world titles, 2 division champion, most finish like what the most finishes in UFC history? You've beaten
Well, no, not finishes.
every
That's
oh
Charles.
that's Charles Oliveira, my bad, sorry. The literal 2 division champion. You've beaten champions at you've decimated champions at 2 different divisions. You've beaten multiple Hall of Famers and multiple former champions. And you have the only spinning back kick finish in a championship match. And you're number 2 behind a guy who has no shade to him, but like 2 title defenses, 3 title defenses, and only 1 title defense in his own division. Where's the math at? And I feel like, you know what I mean? Like it
Mm.
sounds crazy to put someone like that, put John Jones as number 2 under Islam. Like what has Islam done to be over John Jones? I don't understand. What has he done to be over Pereira? You know what I mean? Because someone could say
Yeah.
like, oh, it's the like how active have you been? And like Islam's been active, but I feel like no one's been more active than Alex Pereira, and he's number 3.
Yeah. I mean,
You
we've
know what I
talked
mean?
about
Like
this a few times. I feel like the whoever is currently doing the pound for pound rankings, they don't have any criteria to determine what they think before they sit down. I think they just sit down and think like, who do I want to be number one? And then they just write it in and then they figure the rest out afterward because
because
there's no rank where you could give him the nod because if you want to go activity, Alex has all the activity. If you want to go resume, John has all the
Yeah, because I think it goes. I think the way it should go, the top three should go is John Jones at number one. Because I'm glad they said it on the broadcast as, hey, pound for pound, the best fighter in the world, the one and only John Jones, right? It should go John Jones at number one, Alex Pereira at number two, Islam at number three, and then so on and so forth, right? Because John and Alex are both two division champions. There's only nine in the last 30 years. They're both double champions. They're both champions at two different weight classes, have been champions at two different weight classes, has decimated multiple champions, former champions at two different divisions. Like, how are they number two and three? But then I feel like that putting John Jones at number two on the pound for pound, I feel like is just as crazy as saying that like John Jones is like running from Tom Aspinall or John Jones is like needs this for his legacy. Like I think both of those are such crazy things because how do you tell a person who literally is the greatest fighter of all time? John, there's literally a video on the UFC's page. It is a hour and 30-minute compilation of all of John Jones's highlights and accolades. And it's the title is John Jones is the greatest fighter of all time. There's been nobody in the last 30 years who's gotten an hour and a half compilation video of just people just saying, showing all of your highlights and accomplishments. I think to say that, like, for someone to have all these things, right?
Mm.
Like we said, you're champion at light heavyweight, champion at heavyweight, champion, spinning back kick. You beat a plethora of Hall of Famers in their prime, prime Shogun, a prime Machida, a prime Rashad Evans, a prime Rampage. You know what I mean? Like you beat Cyril, who's like who I think is gonna be like who was the people were saying was gonna be like the future of the heavyweight division, who I think is gonna be that next heavyweight champion. I like both Tom and Cyril, but I really feel like it's a toss up. It's a 50-50, but I think Cyril got it, but you beat Cyril, you beat the greatest heavyweight in Stipe, you beat all these people, right? You got 16 world titles at home, 17 title wins. You haven't been in a non-title match since like 2009. This man is literally John Cena or technically Randy Orton. Like this dude is it's like when you remember when Booker T used to be like five time, 5 time
Mm.
champion. Like that's John Jones. You know that song? I think the you know that Drake song All Me.
Yeah.
I think that John Jones is one of the few people who could sing All Me and every word be true. He could just be literally walk around the house. I got everything. I got everything. I got everything. I got everything. I cannot complain about da 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 da. I forgot the lyrics. It's really late, but it would be literally all true. Like because he literally has everything. He's accomplished everything you can accomplish in the sport. He's gotten every accolade, he's gotten every bonus, everything you can accomplish in the sport of MMA, he's done, right? I think that I think he could pull off, but looking at it from Tom Aspinall's side, right?
Mm.
If you're Tom Aspinall, I like Tom Aspinall. I think he's fascinating. I think he's really dope. I think he is one of the future stars of the heavyweight division and potentially might be the next heavyweight champion, right? Because I think between him and Cyril, it's really a toss up because I think it's him, Cyril at the after John and Stipe. I think it's him and Cyril, and then up here, and then the rest of the heavyweight division beyond that. So it could be a toss up between the two, like who could be the next. But Tom is again really nice guy, good dude, just crazy fast. The athleticism, the jujitsu, you know what I mean? Like this dude I don't think outside of Cyril, I don't think I've ever and John, who are at like the top, along with him, I don't think I've ever seen a heavyweight move that fast and be that agile and be that athletic. You know, this dude was teaching jujitsu classes to adults at 16. Like, it's crazy. I think he's rarely ever left the second round, like all finishes. So I think from when you're looking at from Tom Aspinall's perspective, right? If you're Tom Aspinall, you want this fight. I totally understand why you want this fight. This will cement your future GOAT status to be like, hey, 17 men have tried, like, what, 20 men have tried, 20 men have failed. 20 of the best martial artists from every corner of the world have tried to beat John Jones, and 20 men have failed. And for you to be the one person who does beat him, you're already like, this dude's on a trajectory to the moon, right? So if he beats John Jones, that's like his moment. And then also a fight against John Jones, Tom Aspinall has everything to gain and nothing to lose, right? You beat John Jones, you're sent to international superstardom, right? You are the face of the heavyweight division. Chances are one of the faces of the UFC. You're gonna get a crazy paycheck. Your stock is going through the roof. You are the face of British MMA. You are on every poster, on every magazine. People are wanting to come and shake your hand, do interviews, do media. You're gonna be in everything. You know what I mean? And the notoriety that'll come from it, the fame that'll come from it, and just also the personal accomplishment of being like, hey, I feel like I'm the best, so I want to face the best. And if you beat the best, like Ric Flair said, in order to be the man, you got to beat the man. And if you do beat the man, guess what? You're the man. So, like, I can see why, and then the paycheck will be insane. So I think that even if you don't win, right, you don't lose anything, because who can give you a hard time to losing to John Jones?
Right.
Everyone has lost to, you name a person and they've lost to John Jones. Cyril has lost to John Jones. Stipe, Rashad, Machida, Gustafsson, Smith, you know, Dominic Reyes, the list goes on and on and on and on and on and on, right? But the notoriety you would gain from even a loss, people would be like, wow, that guy really stepped in there and took it to Jones. But like, Jones being Jones happened to pull out the win. This guy's the next best thing since sliced bread. Like, this guy really took it to him. Where the money you would get from even a loss, or like the notoriety, the fans you would gain, it's all up for Tom Aspinall. Because I don't think that anyone's going to be like, oh, you moved down the rankings because you lost to John Jones. I think that's ridiculous. You know what I mean? Like, if you're Tom Aspinall, you do everything in your power to get that fight, because that's life changing right there. But
Well,
I feel
also,
like, go ahead.
after this past weekend, I realized this is mega recency bias. But right now, as we sit here talking about this, it feels like John Jones, Tom Aspinall is the biggest fight the UFC can make right now.
I could see that.
Like I say,
I think,
there's a ton of recency bias on that, but just the way that the story has kind of ended up. Oh, by the way, we should say it's almost an hour in. John Jones beat Stipe. Stipe uh, got finished by ground and pound. The elbows were nasty. Um, John looked really good. Stipe looked a little bit slow, and he retired afterward. Um, Great career for Stipe. I'm sure he's going to go have some fun. He didn't seem to take the loss that hard in the moment anyway. Uh, and obviously, everyone wishes him well. No one can have a bad thing to say about the guy.
yeah,
Uh, it's for sure a future Hall of Famer. All the
no doubt.
accolades. Uh, One of the best people that's ever been involved in professional fighting. Period. Uh, Super fun guy, lots of personality, but clearly content and happy to be a a working class hero instead of a face of a giant corporation. So good on him. Not his best performance, but hey, you're getting kind of up there in age. Father Time is undefeated, and you came out there, got a nice little payday for yourself, went off into the sunset. No one can blame you, and we all appreciate you.
Did I agree? Like two-time heavyweight champion, most title defenses for a heavyweight at four. Like the fights between like Verdun, DC, Francis. You know what I mean? Like all like you know what I mean? Like just
JDS when he won the title.
JDS, right? Like great stuff. And also very cool dude. I feel like yeah, like you said, he didn't really. It didn't seem like he took it very hard, but I feel like Stipe is someone who's unflappable. Like
Yeah.
he's cool. He's cool as a cucumber, right? Cool like the other side of the pillow because he was just kind of like, yeah, done. Gonna go home and be a local legend. He's got people in his city that love him, a family that loves him. He's just like, hey man, I've had a great career. I've done great things. Going home. And he probably and got must have gotten a crazy paycheck off that. You know what I mean? Off that fight. The do you think a lot of people have been saying that like, he looked kind of slow or like, wasn't sure if it was just uh steep was it, like father time or was it just John Jones did John Jones just look that good? Like some people said Stipe had to look old. Some people said John Jones, Stipe didn't look old. Stipe was in the best, like arguably the best shape of his life, and he did have some moments, but like John Jones just was doing John Jones things and made it look that way. Where do you lean on that?
I think it's definitely both. Uh, I would say for John's part, I think that he definitely looked better than he did before. I think against Gon, just physically against Gon, he looked a little bit puffier and a little bit too heavy. Um, I still think that he could lose a little bit of weight from where he's at. I understand why he doesn't want to, from a grappling perspective, but I think that more in the same way he said that he trimmed down a little bit for this fight because he felt like he was sacrificing some of his volume and his cardio when he was up at slightly heavier when he fought Gon before. I wouldn't mind seeing him come down even a little bit more than he is right now. I forget what he weighed. I think it was like 237 or something like that at the weigh-in. I wouldn't mind seeing him at like 228, like 225, somewhere around there. Um, just because I think the movement and the quickness that he's going to need and that ultimately he gains his is much more important than whatever the 10 pounds would add to any grappling. I think most of John's grappling that he showcased uh, in his heavyweight fight so far has mostly just been technical. It's like he surprised Stipe with
That
that
Soto Gotti?
it's that trip that he hit on
Yeah,
him.
the
It's
Soto Gotti, the little judo back trip thing.
yeah,
Yeah,
it's he surprised him with that. That wasn't because that extra like 10, 20 pounds that he was able to like power him through the position. That was just good technique and he surprised him with it. And I think that's the formula that John's going to use when he's grappling anyway. It's I don't think that there's anyone where John's gonna power through a position against an Aspinall or Blades uh, or any of the guys who have any sort of wrestling familiarity. I think that he's going to do it technically. He's going to do it the same way he's done his whole career. It's John Jones isn't necessarily he has the reach, but he's not the strongest guy who's ever fought in the UFC. He's not the biggest guy that's ever fought in the UFC. It's his advantage is from having certain natural gifts and combining that with really good technique and understanding of interpreting space and mixing his techniques together in a flow that works. It's he's not just some physical specimen that is impossible to replicate. It's all of John's stuff is really technical. He manages the space well. He uses all of his natural advantages in a way that you don't always see from other people. So I don't think he needs the extra weight personally up at heavyweight. I don't think that that's the style in which he's going to successfully grapple. So I'd like to see him come down a little bit on that. But it's hard to pick holes in his performance. He got the takedown. His ground and pound, always excellent. Picked his shots really well. Understood the leverage and when he could elbow and strike and when he had to posture up and like move around to A, maintain the position and B, get off damage. Like you could see all the experience he has and his technique. He understands exactly what he's supposed to be doing and when he's supposed to be doing it to maintain the control and to effectively strike. So that was all excellent stuff. The that like spinning back kick, he did that a few times in the fight. I think that's another one of his range weapons that you have to deal with. That again is not a like weight or power thing. It's just good, technical, fast is how that's going to cause damage. And I think he did that. For Stipe's part, he did look significantly slower and more kind of how would I put this? Michael Chandler looked like he might have been in the best shape that we've ever seen him when he fought Charles Oliveira. But I think that the long layoffs for both Michael Chandler and Stipe affected their timing and their control of distance and range. And that's something that's really come into focus for me listening to Demetrius Johnson talk, Mighty Mouse, where he talks about how important understanding spacing and timing is, and that like zone of where you can be and when you can be, and how to navigate the space between you and your opponent. And I think that gets really disrupted when you haven't fought in a while, and it makes it really difficult to get your offense going. And if you back up from John Jones, I think you're in for a rough in your prime. And Stipe just isn't. So when he couldn't step forward initially to meet John kind of head on, it feels like he just got John Jones, where you're stuck outside taking pictures and he's touching you and you can't get through his defense to get at him. So that's why I think it's both. John still looks very technically excellent. Stipe wasn't the Stipe in my mind.
Mhm. I think that to your point of the Osotogari kind of like that judo move John Jones had pulled off. I don't think anybody was expecting that. I was very surprised, and I'm sure anyone who was more surprised was Stipe, because I don't think, when you're dealing with heavyweights, I think heavyweights in general wouldn't have been ready for that, because heavyweights are not used to being swept off their feet. You know what I mean? They're heavyweights for a reason. They're
Mm.
um because I know that must have been a shock to the system. And then to take like 45 elbows to the head. I think that a weaker person or a weaker fighter, right? Like a fighter who had like someone who wasn't as tough as Stipe would
Hmm.
have definitely folded,
Yeah.
because that was a lot to take. Just go yeet, and then just to be like I think a weaker man would have definitely folded, but I think Stipe is as tough as a Nokia phone. Like that dude, that dude is as tough as a Nokia phone. Like as because that dude no sold most of those things and kept walking like was on some Terminator stuff. I feel like that's most of Stipe's fights. Like that guy is like as tough as a $2 steak, because that dude will keep moving forward, and just fight IQ is really like high up there. You know what I mean? Where he's just kind of like, okay, cool, you hit me with that. Ooh, I ate that for dinner, lunch, and breakfast, and just keep on throwing and kind of readjusting his game plan. Where we saw like even after like he took a couple of really hard front kicks to the body, just go bam. And I think that, like, literally, like I said, any other heavyweight, I feel like would have folded.
Mm.
And you saw, because like you said, John isn't the strongest, right? And John knows that. John said that that's why John said he created, or not created, but worked on that spinning back kick specifically for this fight, because he had mentioned that he knows that he's not a knockout guy, but
Mm.
he wanted to have a move where if he landed it and it hit, it could put anybody down. And we saw when it landed and it hit, it put Stipe down. And hence the reason why he's the first person to end a championship fight by spinning back kick. Like that kick was nasty. And Stipe was very tough. He got a couple shots in. He was good. But again, John Jones' definition of excellence, like very dominant win. Um, I think that, like I was saying, why Tom Aspinall wants this fight and why he wants to win. I think why he wants this fight and why he wants to fight John. My bad. But I think that on the flip side of this, if I'm John Jones and I'm hearing all the chat about, oh yeah, he needs this for this his legacy, and like, oh he like he's ducking Tom and this and that, right? Like he needs this, right? If I'm John Jones, like we looked at it from Tom Aspinall's perspective, if I'm John Jones, I've had a perfect career. I don't need anybody to like validate this this near perfect career that he's had, right? Like he has beaten his whole career. People have told him, "Hey, beat this guy." Oh, like John Jones has never ran from a fight. Like in 14 years, he's taken on, like we said, a prime Shogun, a prime Machida, a prime Rashad, a prime Rampage, a prime Dominic Reyes, a prime Gusterson. You know what I mean? Like he's fought in everybody and anybody for the last 14 years and has beaten any and all like comers to the belt. So I think that like if I'm John Jones, like how Tom Aspinall, this fight is all ups for him. He has everything to gain and nothing to lose. For John Jones, this matchup, he has nothing to gain from this fight and everything to lose, because he's had, like we said, just a perfect career. You know what I mean? If you don't count the like elbow from Matt Hamill, you know what I mean? Like the that one bad judging incident. John Jones, like we said, 17 title fights, 16 world titles, two division champion, right? Like just unrivaled greatness in the sport. If you're John Jones, what do like for Tom Aspinall, this fight would be the biggest fight of his life. For John Jones, it would just be another Saturday for him. Another Saturday against another like. And when I say this, I don't mean this to be like rude, but to John Jones, when you look at his whole career, he's been fighting dangerous up and comers for his entire over the last 14 years. You know what I mean? He's fought in every person who was supposed to be the next big thing or who is the next big thing or who is like he fought DC and DC became a Hall of Famer. You know what I mean? Like Gustafson, their fight is in the Hall of Fame. You know, Machida, Rashad Evans is in the Hall of Fame. Shogun, Hall of Fame, right? I think that for John Jones, when you look at the last 14 years of his career, this really would just again, this is he has nothing to gain and everything to lose. Where this is just another Saturday for him. This is another Saturday against another surging European interim champion. You know what I mean? Like, because he beat Cyril, and Cyril was that guy. He was a surging interim champion from Europe, first one from France, and he beat him. I think against like Tom has never faced someone like John, and I think that's fair to say. Like, there's been no one in Tom's career or list of fights that he's fought that is like John. You could say he could watch a lot of film, and yes, you can, but I think that like when you're in there, we saw with the Cyril fight, when you're in there with John, it's a bit of that John Jones effect where where a lot of Tom has like the benefits, like Tom's really benefits, the advantages Tom brings to a fight, right? His athleticism, his speed, his jujitsu prodigy level, you know what I mean? The striking, the knockout power. John has faced that has faced all of Tom's best qualities multiple times over against all the best fighters in the world. He's fought someone with his athleticism in DC. He fought someone with his speed in like Cyril. He's fought someone with his knockout power. Again, you could say that with like DC. You could say that with Rampage. You could say that with Machida. You could say he fought someone with the jujitsu skills, right? Like his speed, his athleticism, like Cyril. You know what I mean? Like there's so many like a lot of. I don't think Tom brings anything that's John won't be prepared for because he's done this so many times. And his last 14 years of his career is just taking on newcomers, right? And they'll say, like, oh, if you want Cyril, if you're not Cyril, if you want Alex, fight Tom, if you're really the baddest guy. But people have been saying that to John for the last 14 years of his career. So for John, he's like, hey, I don't gain anything from this. For you, this is the biggest fight of your life. For me, this is another Saturday. If you want this fight, that's fine. But I want to be paid for it, like paid handsomely for it, just because, again, if John Jones wins, right? What will people say? Oh yeah, another win for John Jones, another phenomenal performance, unrivaled greatness. What they've been saying his last 20 fights. He loses? Oh my god, John Jones lost. You know what I mean? Like, but you know what I mean?
Here's
Like, if you're John Jones, I imagine that's what John Jones is thinking. Like, bro, I've been doing this for 14 years. People have been telling me everybody's at the last 16, 17 people he's fought. Everybody's been saying, oh, this is the guy. This is the next guy. This is the champion. This is the up and comer. This guy's super dangerous. Oh, here's this young up and comer who's really doing things. You know what I mean? Like, so I imagine if you're John Jones, it all starts to blend. You know what I mean? Because if you've been just taking on dangerous newcomers, up and comers from every corner of the world, I imagine for him it must feel like, oh, here's another dude. You know what I mean?
I will say, here's what's different about it and why I think we'll see this fight. The first one is I think that this is arguably the biggest pay per view draw that the UFC can put on. So it stands to reason it's probably going to be the biggest payday of John's career with his current contract because John gets pay per view points. So it stands to reason that this would be the biggest paycheck, even if he doesn't get more guaranteed money. This is probably going to be John's biggest paycheck that he's ever gotten in his career if he takes this fight. The second part of it is I believe that this will be the first fight since he's touched gold that John Jones will open the fight as well, not open the fight, but upon announcement of the fight, he will open as the underdog. I think that when the official line gets released in Vegas, John Jones will be a slight underdog to Tom Aspinall. And I think that is different because John Jones has not been an underdog in like 15 years. And I think that people are legitimately questioning if John can beat him. And I think that that gets under John's skin. I think that bothers him that people think that there's somebody he couldn't beat after what he's done. And all of that combines for me to say A, this fight's going to be huge. B, this fight's going to happen because Dana wants it to happen, because Tom wants it to happen, because the fans want it to happen, and because John's not done fighting. That seems pretty clear to me, even though he's trying to say that he'd be far away. I mean, we've seen how hard it was for plenty of champions to walk away and actually retire from the sport. To me, there's no one who defines themselves more by their place in the UFC than John Jones does. I think that if there's someone who if there's if there's someone you should be worried about what happens when they don't have the UFC anymore, my mind goes to two people. Sean Strickland and John Jones. Because who are they and what are they when they don't have the UFC anymore? When they don't have fighting anymore? I don't think that either of those guys have the answer to that question, which is why I think they're not done. So I think John does fight again. I think the UFC, the fans, and Tom Aspinall are going to pressure him into taking that fight. And I think he's going to want to take it because it'll be the first time that he's thought of as an underdog. And also, another reason he should take it, even if he does somehow lose, I realize John doesn't care about this, but John's image in the eyes of the public would be so much higher if he lost one time and reacted decently. He doesn't even have to react well. If he lost to Tom Aspinall and just wasn't a sore loser about it, he would have such a better relationship with fans and image around, which you could argue he shouldn't get given the things that he's done outside of the octagon. But I think that that moment would humanize him way more than anything he's ever tried to do back when he was trying to be a face.
I can understand that. I think that I think while I am a fan, like I said before, fan of Tom Aspinall, I hope great things from him. I think he's going to be a future champion, right? And I feel like it's hard, like John Jones. He is unrivaled greatness when it comes to like combat sports. I don't think I would like to see this fight happen. I think this fight would be interesting. I think the biggest fight of all time is John Jones versus Alex Pereira. Like, if you're talking about what's going to get the most casuals and hardcore fans to show up, I think that's Alex Pereira and John Jones, because hardcore fans and casuals alike, and just people who are not even connected to the sport, see Alex Pereira. They know Alex Pereira. They know he's going to be. He was on our most exciting people list. You see Alex Pereira, you're gonna click. You see, even if you don't really follow the sport like that, you see John Jones, you're gonna click. Even if you don't follow the sport, even you don't have to watch baseball to know who Shohei Ohtani is and how great he is. You don't have to watch basketball to know how great Kobe Bryant was. If you know, it's like, even if you don't watch basketball, you know who Kobe Bryant is. You know who Shohei is. You know who Tom Brady is. You know who Floyd Mayweather is, and you know who Canelo Alvarez is. And I think that Alex Pereira and John Jones both hold that, right? They're both double champions. They both are like, their names are synonymous with knockouts and exciting fights. You know what I mean? Like, they both have a really big fan base. I think that potentially would be the biggest fight in UFC history. It's like the biggest fantasy matchup, right? I think that someone could say, yeah, like, oh, he has a clear win against Alex because of the grappling. But Alex's grappling has been getting significantly better. But also, I think that while the grappling is Tom's biggest strong suit, I think if you're looking at striking, I feel like John Jones, it's hard to pick anybody over John Jones when it comes to striking. And John Jones was a champion level wrestler. And he's shown he could choke, because even though it hurts me bad to see that that highlight when he's like choking Machida to sleep and he drops to the floor. I feel like it's still one of the one of the most epic finishes. But I think that him showing up as an underdog, I feel like, are we putting the cart a little bit before the horse? Because I feel like it's almost a tad bit disrespectful to be like, oh man, to say someone's gonna be like a favorite over John Jones. I just feel like I feel like, I don't know. It feels a bit wild, but I think maybe, like, would I like to see this fight? Do I think this will be one of the biggest fights in UFC history? Oh, absolutely. I think Tom and John will be one of the biggest fights ever. I think for hardcore fans like us, we will enjoy it. We will watch it. And we will talk about it, and it will be fantastic. You know what I mean? It'll be great. It'll be phenomenal. But I think for casual fans, like people who may not be, for casuals and hardcores, I think Alex Pereira versus John Jones is the more fan friendly fight, where like people know both fighters' names. It's a lot of name recognition. People who even don't even watch the sport would be like, I'd tune in for this. But I think as far as the Jones, you mentioned like the money aspect of it. I don't think this fight happens, even though I would like for this fight to happen. And I think this fight would be really
So do you think
interesting.
John retires?
I think one of two things.
Okay.
I think that John is totally fine retiring because he's accomplished everything you can accomplish in this sport. There is nothing left for him to accomplish. He has done everything. This is also why he's the only fighter in 30 years to get a whole hour and a half video just of his accomplishments and accolades, right? I think that he's even said that he has no problem vacating the belt, because again, he's done everything. He's been there and got the t-shirt and the trophy for everything you could mention in the UFC. Oh, knockout of the night, he's got that. Submission of the night, he's probably got that. Fight of the night, he's already got that. Light heavyweight champion, got that. Heavyweight champion, got that. Beat an interim champion, got that. Uh, get a cool finish that no one's ever done in a championship match, got that. Beat a Hall of Famers, got that. He's beaten former champions, move up a weight division. Everything you would want to do in a video game when you're building your creative character, John Jones has done in his career, right? So I think that if money is the only motivator, like you mentioned, like there's outside of money, there's really nothing drawing John to this fight, right? And the money, if I think if they bring it to the amount that because he said before, he's like, hey, if it's the money that he's expecting, if it's like, hey, like he mentioned having FU money, if it's that type of money, I think he shows up. But I don't know if they will pay him the amount of money he's looking to get for this. And I think John Jones holds the most power in this negotiation because Tom Aspinall needs John Jones. John Jones does not need Tom Aspinall, right? It was like going into the Stipe fight. John Jones wanted this legacy fight for himself, and then where it was just kind of like he was just kind of like, "Hey, Stipe, you're the greatest heavyweight. I would really like to fight you. Can we make this happen?" In that case, Stipe was holding most of the negotiation bar because Stipe was totally fine being retired. Like John Jones needed Stipe in that moment, and Stipe like didn't really need John Jones. But in this scenario, Tom Aspinall needs John Jones. John Jones does not need Tom Aspinall. He doesn't really need any fighter to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, so I think that he could really, if they don't match the number, like, there's no novelty, there's no interesting thing that draws John to this fight because he's faced every aspect that makes Tom Aspinall really interesting and every other fighter that he's faced over the last 15 years. Like the whole interim heavyweight thing, I think it was like an interesting thing for Cyril because he was like, hey, it's my first fight at heavyweight. Never, you're the interim heavyweight champion. Everyone says you're the next best thing at this division. Hey, cool, I'll do that. That sounds interesting. That's another feather in the cap. But once you've already done that, it's like watching. It's like, and Cyril and Tom are part of the same generation, so it's like, okay, I already beat someone from your generation who was hailed as the next best thing, who was the interim champion, who was from your part of the world, from your continent, from Europe. It's just like I know, but it's just like I think if you're John Jones, I think that John, I think if they don't meet the number, I think John Jones is totally fine with doing that. And then also, John Jones is super petty. I think that John Jones has no problem pulling the heel move. I think where he could just go, "Hey, I'm totally fine vacating the belt. I don't have anything else to prove. Here, Tom. Here, you can have the belt." And I think that that would irk Tom the most if John Jones was just like, "Here, have the belt. I'm retiring." Because even if Tom becomes the greatest heavyweight of all time and just goes on this crazy John Jones run, everyone will always say, well, you didn't beat John Jones, though. I don't think anyone will ever say, well, John Jones has accomplished everything in our sport and then some, but he never fought Tom Aspinall. You know what I mean? Like, usually it'll be the opposite way around. It's like if Canelo's on a phenomenal run. No one's ever going to be like, hey, Canelo didn't fight this one dude. They're going to be like, yo, this was the second, like one of the greatest boxers of all time. You know what I mean? Like, outside of Floyd Mayweather, like, this dude was the guy. And him and Floyd were in two different generations. So he'd be like, he was the best boxer of his generation, the greatest boxer of his generation. And that's what they'll say about John Jones, is that, like, he was the greatest sports combat athlete to ever walk the earth since people have been fighting. You know what I mean? And I think it would be the ultimate DX chop. Like, because I think that it could happen. Because I think that I know everyone's been trying to like guilt John Jones into this fight and being like, oh, you have to fight Tom. This is what you need this for your legacy. Oh, don't you want to prove that you're the best guy? Don't you want to do this? Or, hey, don't you have to fight this? Or are you ducking him? Or are you running from him? Whatever it is. I think that in this scenario, trying to guilt John Jones into fighting Tom is probably, in my opinion, the wrong way. But who am I? But I think it's the wrong way to get this fight to happen. But again, who am I? But like, I think that if I think people could talk themselves out of the fight, talk themselves out of a championship opportunity, where it's like, if John Jones really just got irritated about it all, he really could just say, "I'm done. I've done everything. Peace."
I
You
think
couldn't see
that
because of the green screen, but
if
like, I think maybe, like when John came up to Stipe, he was like, "Hey, Stipe, you the best heavyweight of all time. I really like to make this happen. Let's go make this happen," type thing. I think if he was coming to like Stipe and was like, "Hey, Stipe, you want to prove you the best? Hey, come fight me." Da 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 da. You know what I mean? Even if fans were that way, I don't think that fight would have been terrible. But even I think the little bit of other evidence behind it is we had this chance in 2020, if I'm not mistaken. When if it was, I think it was 2020 when everyone was clamoring for the John Jones versus Francis fight. They couldn't come to a number that they agreed on. If I remember correctly, that was the reason, and that fight never materialized. John Jones is still the GOAT. Francis is still a really cool dude, and one of the baddest heavyweights. You know what I mean? So I think that this fight, there'll be a lot of clamoring for it. This is just my guess. Who am I? We don't know, but I think what will happen is similar to the Francis situation. I think a lot of people will clamor for it. I think people will continue to try to guilt John into fighting Tom Aspinall. And then I think either John Jones will be like, actually, I don't need this. It's like he might be like, oh, y'all saying I need him? Okay, cool. Hey, bet. Say less. You this is the guy you want? Okay, cool. If you like it, I love it. Here's the belt. And I'm gonna go right off into the sunset as the greatest fighter to ever live and undefeated. You know what I mean? And I think that would irk Tom more than anything else because he's like, I wanted to test my skills against the best, right? I think that I don't know if they would come to the number because if they don't come to the number, they, I think that fight gets shelved, and I think the fight that they would make instead would be Tom versus Cyril for like the vacant heavyweight belt. And I think that would be a very interesting fight and very exciting fight because they're both guys who are very around the same height, same weight. They're both people. They're both the top of the division. They're both guy. Both guys are people are fighters that people are saying is the future of the heavyweight division. And I guess we would get to see who is the king of the heavyweights now. Who's the king of this generation of heavyweights? Like who is the top guy, right? Everyone's saying both y'all are the future of the heavyweight division. Who will be the one that's standing above? I think that that would be the fight to make. I think that they either got to pay John like an exorbitant amount of money, which I don't know what's going to happen if they're going to reach the number I guess John is talking about. But if they don't, I think he retires. Um, I think he's told it's like buying a car. I feel like he'd just be like, eh. um, but if they do make the Alex fight, I don't think they pay him that crazy wazoo number. You know what I mean? But I think we would get that fight against Alex, and then John Jones would retire either way. As that's just what I think is going to happen.
I just don't see a world where the UFC would give him the Alex fight without the Aspinall fight first, unless he was gonna leave the division. And in which case, I know you say that like Tom definitely wants the John Jones fight. I don't think that he needs it
Yeah,
because
I don't think he needs it either. Like
uh
he needs John Jones for this fight, but I don't think he like is like, oh, I'm just dying for this opportunity. I think
no,
like
I
there's
think
like the
Tom
Cyril
just
fight.
wants the undisputed belt. I think that's all he
Yeah,
wants. And I think that in any case, I think he's probably going to get it. Uh, I just don't see John retiring. I can't see it. if he was going to, I think he would have already done it. Like I say, the reason that I think that is just because I think that John Jones defines himself by what he does in the octagon. And without it, I don't know if he knows who he is because every time he goes into turmoil, his only like calm and zen is in the octagon. And so is he really do it forever? But is he going to take himself out of that environment and put himself permanently in the environment where he usually makes mistakes and screws things up? I just doubt it. He can like say, "Oh, the money thing." I think the money thing is posturing and like promoting the next fight and making it going to do it because it's not the Francis situation where Francis wanted out of his contract and ended up leaving. Tom Aspinall's not going anywhere. And John Jones has like 5 to 8 fights left on his current deal or something like that. So he will be under contract with the UFC permanently. It's he will never fight for another organization.
Oh, I agree. I don't think John will ever fight for another organization, but I think that if
Right,
they
but if
don't,
they're
I
both
don't think.
UFC fighters and Tom Aspinall is the heavyweight champion, he will get to forever say, "John Jones, you ran away from me," and
I
I think
don't
that's
think.
enough for him.
eh,
It doesn't have to be 100% real. It's he's just saying, and he has the ability to feel that way that John Jones retired and ran away from me. Whether he actually believes that or not is immaterial. He's making an argument to boost himself up. So it's he'll say that. John will say, "Oh, I didn't need it. I was done with the sport anyway. I already beat the game." And that's how we'll leave it. The UFC, if by the way, if John's actually considering retiring or playing hard to get with the money, here's how you're gonna know. Dana White is gonna start attacking John Jones publicly and saying he's scared. That's how you'll know negotiations are not going well. He'll pull the same Francis card right on John Jones. Because if John Jones isn't going to fight again for the UFC, then what would Dana come out and defend him for?
I think for John Jones, right? I think maybe 5 years ago, that might have been like of like where's what to do post fighting. It seems like in the last two fights, right? It may be just me, but I feel like in the last two fights against, like when we saw with the Cyril fight and then the John fight, it feels like John's like done a lot of introspective work, a lot of work, in like internal work, you know what I mean? Where it looks like he's a lot more peaceful. You know what I mean? Like a lot more zen within. You know what I mean? Like he looks like a lot of like, oh man, uh done a lot of what, how people say you got to do the work, you know what I mean? Feels like he's done the work, right? Where I think that like if he retired, he could do the desk, you know what I mean? And he could do the ESPN desk because he's again one of the most cerebral fighters of all time, the one of the most smartest fighters. Like that's his greatest asset is him being like the most like the smartest fighter or the most like he's always 5 steps ahead of his opponent, like how like GSP was. But GSP was on contract when he after the Johnny Hendricks fight, and GSP was like, "Hey, it's been a great run. I'll be back eventually." And then he's like, "Hey, I'm retiring." I
Yeah,
think
but
it
also
might
if you
be
remember, Dana trashed him for retiring.
that is also true. But I think that John Jones really, I think that if they don't match what he's looking for, I really feel like John Jones feels fulfilled with what he's done, what he's accomplished, how he changed our sport forever. That I think that really, if I think if they can meet the I guess whatever requests that he is asking for, I think they make the fight happen. I don't I don't think they make the Pereira happen without Tom Aspinall, but I do believe that John Jones has zero issue with leaving, like not leaving to another organization, because I think John Jones will never fight for another organization, but I think he will just ride off into the sunset and go into retire. Like GSP doesn't fight for any other organizations. You just see him doing Olympic workouts and like eating like food, like or whatever he's doing. You know what I mean? Like he just be vibing. And I think John Jones at like 37, almost 38, I think he just lives life. You know what I mean? Like he just be like, okay, cool. Like, hey, if y'all can't if the request can't be made to match whatever the number is, I don't even I this is just me. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think John Jones would even be salty about if the numbers aren't met that he's like looking for. I think at this stage in his career and his life, I don't even think he would be mad. I think he would just be like, okay, cool, no problem. Totally understand that. You gotta is like, just it's just business, right? And I think he would just be like, cool, totally understand that. I appreciate the offer, but I think I'm gonna walk away. Because I know you said Francis was leaving. I think John Jones has zero issue. Like it's just with just calling it a day if everything can't be met, if the request can't be met. But I think that if things do get met, I think he could go on another 5 fight run based on the way he looked with Stipe. But I think every fight now, I could be wrong, but every fight now I think will be based on the performance of the last fight, right? Like if he goes in there and fights, I think it'll be an exciting fight. I think he'll, but I just don't. I mean, I know you feel like the fight will happen. I'll be happy if the fight gets made because I will definitely watch it because that is an exciting fight. But just if I'm thinking about it from John Jones's perspective, I just, I mean, it's hard to do that. But if I'm just thinking like if I'm John Jones and this situation is presented to me and I've already done everything you can do and accomplished everything you can accomplish and then some. I have records that will probably live in the history books for the next decade. You know what I mean? Or two. And I've done things. My name is in almost every stat book or every record that there is to make in the UFC. And you have a request like, hey, I'd like to make this much for this fight. I have nothing to really gain from this and everything to lose. You said I'm the greatest fighter of all time on the broadcast. You said I'm the pound for pound number one. You said this will be the biggest fight of all time. I would like to be paid accordingly. And I think that if it works out, I think he'll do it. But I feel like if they're just like, if they say, hey, this is the number we have instead, and if it isn't up to this, I think he might just go, hey,
I
it's been
think
a
we
great
just
run.
have I think we just have very different reads on John's personality. It's I
Yeah,
but agree to disagree on that part of it. Let's get to there's two other fights I want to talk about on UFC 309 and then we can wrap it up.
yeah.
Uh, First, Charles Oliveira, Michael Chandler. Charles Oliveira with a dominant 4 rounds, and then Michael Chandler came out in the fifth with
Last round of madness.
yeah, it's he was feeling dangerous, and then he was feeling like maybe cheating, maybe a little bit cheating, maybe just a little bit back of the head, just a little. I saw that he was disputing, but Mike maybe just a little, maybe just little bit close to the back of the head there, and some illegal strikes. Uh, I believe it was Keith Peterson on referee this one, allowing some serious nonsense.
Yeah, that was I was very happy for the legendary Super Saiyan Charles Dubronx Oliveira. Uh I am always I like Chandler and Dubronx. I think whenever Charles is fighting on a card, I'm always gonna pick Charles, no matter what. Just because the I think, man, it's Charles is such a great dude, you know? I think that if this is the world's martial arts tournament, if this is all the different arcs of Dragon Ball Z, right? You're making it through uh Raditz, Nappa, Vegeta, right? You go on and like you made it past Vegeta, and now you're going against uh final like final form Frieza or Perfect Cell, right? Now it's like, hey, you know what I mean? But I think that the or if it's just like on the world tournament when he finally made it to the end of the tournament and fought Piccolo at the very end, or King Piccolo at that time, right?
Mm.
Uh, but I think that with that fight, I was very happy with his performance, very dominant performance from Charles Oliveira. He came in, he implemented his game plan. He's very aware of not getting too like crazy and whatnot. But the first 4 rounds, smooth. I was watching it. I was happy. I was kind of nervous, but I was still happy for him. I think that the 5th round, that's when I got nervous. I was like, "Woo!" And it also got exciting. It got exciting because when he caught him and he was hitting him with the hammer fist. I thought the ref was gonna call it. I was like, "Oh, don't call it right now." I was like, "Oh man, let's put in work for 4 rounds. That'd be crazy." Also, one of the biggest upsets of the night. Um, and then the when he jumped backwards and did the little backdrop, and then he was like, "Do it again." Stood back up. The strength of Michael Chandler to stand up with Charles on his back, slam backwards, sit up, stand back up again, and throw. Dude is just in phenomenal shape. I think a lot of people are forgetting that, and not realizing that. Michael Chandler is in phenomenal shape, and he's got crazy strength. I think any fight Chandler's in, it's always going to be exciting. But I think that Oliveira really did a great job of performing. I didn't. I know. I heard a lot of people saying that like he was. There was like some cheating going on. I guess I didn't realize it when I was watching it at first, but yeah, I guess when he was going for the hammer fist, it did look like it was kind of close to the back of the head, and like I heard there was some eye pokes going on, some fence grabbing, you know what I mean? But yeah, great fight all around. I'm excited to see Charles get the chance to become a 3-time lightweight champion. I think that the fight it will be an interesting fight regardless who fights, right? I think if he gets a chance against Islam Makachev, I think that'll be a good fight. He gets to get back and like get that rematch, because I think first one might have been underestimating him, a little overestimation. No, I mean overestimating. No, under over. Can't think right now. But I think that would be a good fight. I think the Arman Sarukian fight was really close. I think that would be a good fight. So either way that goes, I'm excited for it. I think that'll be a fun fight. Michael Chandler got to do a call out at the end, which usually doesn't happen if you lose. But man, he's such an exciting, entertaining person that like he pulled a WWE level promo cut, and I feel like this is just me, but I feel like if Michael Chandler doesn't go to the WWE post UFC, I feel like that would be such a missed opportunity
Yeah.
because what do you think? He's got the personality, he's got the promo cuts, he's got the ability. Like,
I mean, he's already done it at a WWE event. He was at that one event. I don't remember where it was or which event it was technically. It was like SmackDown, or I think it was an episode of SmackDown. He was in the crowd and they gave him the mic and he called out Conor McGregor.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so it's he's already done some stuff with them, and I mean he seems like a natural fit in terms of guy has his personality, has like his commitment, is super athletic.
Very
Uh,
likable.
yeah, it's I mean
Very
seems like
likable on the mic.
they
Right.
could do a whole bunch of stuff with him at any point, and also you got to wonder at what point he will start to believe that he can't get back to the title anymore, and then what he'll decide to do after that. Because I mean, it was already kind of a long shot for Mike to be champion, but after this one, he has to start considering, you know, are you going to stick around and be the entertainment guy, or you know, maybe WWE? Like he's got options for sure. So it's we'll see what he does. And for Charles, yeah, it'll be interesting with the timing if it'll be right into uh, the belt, or if maybe there has to be a fight in between. Just because, I mean, you still have a bunch of guys lurking out there, and there's big fights in the division that still have to be set up and made. There's Dustin Poirier is looking for one last ride. Max Holloway is in the division now permanently and is looking for a next fight. You still have Gaethje out there. Like there's a lot of guys at the top right now who do not have a fight while we wait to see who's going to be the champion next. So a lot of fun fights for them, and then it's our last
Yeah.
one
Wait,
to
real quick.
go ahead.
Dustin versus Michael Chandler. That I feel like that's a pretty exciting fight for the last fight.
Yeah, I mean there's a ton of good matchups at 55 for all those guys. It'll just be interesting to see what they prioritize and how it's going to shake out,
Yep.
and we'll see if Mike still wants to try and wait on Conor McGregor. But I mean, that'll just have to play itself out. We're not going to be able to predict that one. But we'll end off with the ultimate snooze fest to put us all to sleep uh, at this late hour. Bo Nickel and Paul Craig had two grapplers had a boring kickboxing fight. Bo Nickel won it 30-27 by unanimous decision. He landed 54 significant strikes to the 47 of Paul Craig over 15 minutes. Uh, the only interesting thing about this fight was what the crowd did. Uh, they started chanting overrated at Bo Nickel, jumping onto my side, which it seems I've been proven correct that Bo Nickel is indeed a heel and is not relatable in any way, shape, or form. He doubled down on this by being delusional and saying he was happy with that performance, and then proceeded to call the people chanting overrated at him drunk idiots. So I look forward to Bo Nickel's next appearance, where hopefully he will be soundly booed, as everyone has finally come around to my side that he is just not a likable guy. He just isn't.
That I think in that fight, Bo Nickel got the chance to see the other side of fame,
Mm.
right? One day people love you, the next day people can't stand you. You know, I think that, and I think he's slowly, I don't know if he realizes it, but he's slowly slipping into that Ian Gary territory
Mm-hmm.
because it was a similar situation with Ian Gary. Had a lot of both very talented fighters, right? One, a very talented, highly accomplished wrestler, the other, a very like very talented kickboxer, karate guy. But the and when Ian Gary was on a surge, he was on a surge, right? Like when he was on the rise, people was like, "Oh man, Ian Gary," and I was like, in the beginning, I was big on the Ian Gary train. I was like, "Hey man, this dude's gonna be the next champ," and he. But I think when he kind of hit that first snag in the road, where people started to give him the boos, I guess, instead of the cheers, and he got the first, I guess, taste of like people not being here for it. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
started to get a little bit of hate. Ian Gary went off on the deep end. It was kind of like kind of like reacted negatively to it, or didn't take the criticisms very well, right? And
Mm.
went kind of like in between this hero, heel baby face kind of like character, like somewhere in between. And I think that when some people started to be hard on Ian Gary, he didn't take it well, right? And I think Bo Nichols falling or slipping into this same category where on the way up, people were like, "Oh man, Bo, 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 Bo," and
This is
after
a
a
crazy aside, but do you remember that show uh that was on Adult Swim? I have no idea when it was, but at some point in childhood, and they would advertise it. That was bo 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 bo. Bo. Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
Vaguely, yeah. Now
Let me
that
see
you
if I can
mention it,
find that.
vaguely, yeah. Huh?
I'm gonna see if I can find that. Keep going. I'm listening.
Vaguely, yeah. I now that you mention it, vaguely, yeah. I remember there being a show of some version of that. Um, don't remember all too much about it, but I vaguely do remember a show with this. I think a title similar to that. While you search for that, I think that people are just he was just so used to it. You know what I mean? Like people on the rise were here for it. But then I think that he also got to see the side of like of people being hard on him and seeing how he reacts to it. But then also, I guess what happens when you talk a fair amount of like trash.
Mm.
People don't mind if you're talking trash, but they expect you to back it up. Like whatever you tell the media or whatever you tell the fans, they will give you the benefit of your word, right? Until you prove them right or wrong. If you say, "Hey, I'm gonna be champ. I'm gonna do this. I'm a blah 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 blah," they will believe you, or some will, right? Some will believe you. Some will be like, right? But they will give you that chance. They'll be like, "Hey, I'm gonna knock this dude out." Blah blah blah. Some will be like, "Okay, cool. You said you will knock him out. If you don't knock him out, right?" They're gonna be like, and it goes to this like a boring decision. People are gonna kind of take you to task for it, right?
Mm.
Um, Prior to the fight, he did do a lot of pressure when they said who's he did mention a lot of like how he felt like nobody was on his level. Um like when they asked him like who's the best wrestler or like who's like blah blah blah, blah. Like you're the best wrestler in the division. But 9 months of wrestling won't be able to help him. Hey, Paul Craig's been doing this for his whole life. 9 years of 9 months of jiu-jitsu wasn't gonna would, would that be enough? And he had mentioned the whole he's been training with what's his name, Gordon Ryan, the John Jones of like the submission of the jiu-jitsu world, from my understanding, and felt very strongly about it and was very confidently saying that he's been going with um, Gordon Ryan and felt that like Paul Craig would be surprised. He said he would finish him, if I'm not mistaken. Um, and then also mentioned that, just was like, hey, who do you think is on your level? He was like, I don't think anybody's on my level. You know what I mean? So I think when you do talk a fair amount of trash and you're kind of like very kind of like, this, right? when you back it up, people love it. People will love you. Hey, people be like, "Oh man, that's so dope." Blah 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 blah. Blah. But if you say all those things and you talk a really big game and you under deliver, the fans will take you to task for it. You know what I mean? The fans slash the media, right? Uh, I don't know why he didn't go for a takedown. I guess like maybe he was like, oh, that's his wheelhouse. He didn't want to give him his like shot. You know what I mean? Like, well, okay. Before I start before I continue,
Mm.
the things that I think things that I thought Bo did well was, he kept his hands up for most of the time. Uh, he, had a couple good punches. He's very like a lot of footwork going on, right? Um, I think that the cons of the performance was maybe he let someone convince him not to wrestle and was like, "Oh, don't play into his wheelhouse." But there's like a saying goes, I feel like there's like a saying goes told, or there's a saying in general, like you gotta dance with the girl that brought you.
Mm.
You know what I mean? The Bo Nickel came to the UFC highly regarded as like a three-time champion, collegiate champion, right? He's
I mean, not
highly
only regarded, it's he said so himself that he's the you know it's
the
how many
best.
times has he called out Chimaev and said, "Oh, my grappling's better than yours."
Exactly. Um, and you decided to have a kickboxing match and not throw a single a takedown attempt. Maybe like Alex Pereira came to the UFC as a highly decorated Muay Thai kickboxer, right? And he is stuck to that. He danced with the girl that brought him, and he's taken that and turned it into a very fruitful career, right? He's a two-division champion right now. He didn't worry. He focused on what his skills are and didn't focus so much on, and didn't do the opposite. Focus on what his opponent's skills are. Right. We got the chance we saw like an odd kind of like overhand to the belly at one point because I usually see him go for the overhand. That's kind of like his punch, but then he would kind of like go for a takedown. But I think maybe someone convinced him like, hey, that's like Paul Craig's like strong suit. So I think that to have a three-time national champion not use any wrestling and like the striking really wasn't there. And Paul Craig isn't the best striker in that division. So I think if it was something, if it was trying to prove a point, I don't think it proved whatever point was being trying to be made. I think that also you got to be able, I think it's part of being famous where you got to be able to take praise and criticism on the chin, you know?
Hmm.
Um, Sometimes criticism it just stings. Sometimes not the best. Sometimes it's just kind of like you know what I mean. But when you're in the public eye and you're a public figure, people are gonna celebrate you, and then people are gonna criticize you. And we saw the first time he got criticized, and he tried to make it seem like he's a respectful dude. Tried to make it seem like it didn't bother him, but you could tell it definitely did.
Yeah.
Because when they said he was overrated, he was just kind of like, hey, it's fine. But the people who know me, my team says I had a phenomenal performance, a dominant performance. So that's what I'm
Mhm.
gonna choose to believe. But I think that like just calling the fans drunk idiots, not the best move, or saying that like the commentary team doesn't know what they're like talking about, not the best move either, because that means you're
Well, they're not
saying
good
that.
face moves, but they're good heel moves.
Yeah, the good, yeah, good, not good face moves, good heel moves. There we go. Because to say that like DC Cormier, two division champ, DC Daniel Cormier, two division champion, a Hall of Famer, Olympic champion, Olympic wrestling champion. Uh, had a phenomenal career. Only lost to John Jones and Stipe. To say that guy doesn't know what he's talking about is just, you know what I mean? It's, but I think that I know he said that his fans, he was like, oh man, like his family or his coaches, his team. I think that's what it was. His team felt like he had a great performance, and he says that like the people that are near him or close to him said that he had a great performance. I think it's one of those things where sometimes when you're the person paying the checks, writing the checks, people are going to tell you what you need to hear. Or they may tell you what you want to hear, thinking that's what you want to hear. Because if you're the one, everyone's surviving off of you, and you're the one paying, writing everyone's checks, no one's going to tell you, "Hey, bro, you sucked today." No, just if we're living in reality, no one's. I think no one will go and tell the person who's their boss to be like, not feeling it. You know what I mean? Like you're gonna be like, hey, I think there's definitely room for growth and like a lot of stuff that needs to happen because you see that like the with the more interviews you kind of see how much it kind of rubbed in the wrong way. And I like he was mad that people said he's not ready for Hamzat, but if we're being honest and we're looking at it, yes, you're fairly new in your career, but the Bo that fought against Paul Craig, and Paul Craig isn't the most dangerous middleweight.
I mean, he's
I
not
don't
even
think,
currently ranked.
yeah. So the whole nickel that fought Paul Craig, I don't think has. I think the odds would swing heavily in Hamzat's favor if they were to fight, right?
Oh yeah.
Like if like I don't see a world like Hamzat just decimated the third best middleweight of all time
Yeah.
and Robert Whitaker in dominant fashion in the very first round. I mean, if we're just going off all facts, no feelings, that performance against a performance against Paul Craig, if you're going to try to keep it to a kickboxing match, right? Because if that's you avoided it because that is his wheelhouse. Well, Hamzat's wheelhouse is your wheelhouse.
Yeah.
So does that mean you're not going to go for a takedown in that match? And if you're not going to go for a takedown in that takedown in that match, does not look like you're going to have good chances, right? Like maybe if you know the if you're wrestling and you're using your skill set, maybe you have a better chance. But I thought that yeah, the Bo Nickel that fought Paul Craig does not stand a chance against. I don't think he's ready. Was ready. I don't think he's ready yet because I know he said, "Oh, I'm just still starting off. I'm using my striking." I feel like the fans generally don't care.
Well, yeah, and they shouldn't.
Like,
The UFC is not a developmental league. It's we've been told as much, and like the entire product is based on the best fight the best. It's not supposed to be some junior development league where you get your reps in and we kind of string you along until you're ready. It's the whole point is if you're not ready, you shouldn't be in the UFC. How many like Dana says that 8 times? You know, what the contender series is 8 weeks, right? Per season. So he says that 8 times a year, and then with Bo Nickel as a UFC fan, you're just supposed to just go, okay, well everybody except him. He gets to kind of take his time and go slow and put on the training wheels, Bo. Oh, don't go too fast. Make sure you got extra pads on and your helmet. Like, okay, do you have your knee pads on? Okay, now you can go out the driveway, Bo. We're ready for you to go out the driveway now. Like, are you here to be a champion or not? It's this is this is fighting. This isn't like it's your first day on the job down at like the factory where we're going to cut you some slack. Like, you're supposed to be ready. You're supposed to have been training since you were like 13. Did anybody ever think that Khabib was this awesome striker? No. He just did what he had to do until he could back you up, take you down, and get to where he wanted the fight to be.
You trip against that fence and use that fence wrestling.
Exactly. It's he never looked like a fluid, smooth striker. It's he could sometimes hit you with decent like how delusional does Bo Nickel think he is that if you just give him enough time, he's going to turn into this well-rounded guy who's an awesome striker and grappler? Like that doesn't exist. You're you're coming up late to the game and you're going, "Okay, I want to be the unicorn who can do everything all at once." What are you doing? Then don't be here. Go go to Glory and go and be a kickboxer, and then in your off time, stay with Penn State and wrestle with Penn State, and then go and try and be a Glory kickboxer. If you're in the UFC, it's because you're supposed to be one of the best in the world, fighting other guys who are the best in the world. And also, while we're on the entertainment portion, may I also just say, Bobo uh, was on Toonami from 2005 to 2007.
Hmm.
So that was a super deep cut
Yeah,
that I didn't even really watch that show that much. But you said
me
it
neither.
in the correct order that sparked my brain. So I do remember the commercials for it, and I did leave you in the chat a link to the Wikipedia for it
I
to see if it
appreciate
jogs
that.
your memory.
Yeah, because I almost forgot about that show
Yeah,
until you mentioned it. I almost forgot about that show until
yeah.
you mentioned it. Yeah,
It's
that's
only
a.
because of the way you said "bo" over and over again that it just like
It was like spark of electricity. The
yeah
yeah, the yeah, because man, yeah, that is a super deep cut. I did not. I totally forgot about this show, man. Yeah, that was
Well, because
yeah,
all those
because
commercials were right in my wheelhouse, like right
yeah,
around a little bit on school nights. I could watch Cartoon Network until like a little bit before Toonami would come on. So I would see all those commercials and stuff, and then especially on the weekends, I could stay up until like maybe the first session of like whatever the first episode was
mhm,
on Toonami was like I could maybe watch that, and then right after it would be bedtime.
mhm.
So like that was all right in there for I guess 2 years, and you said it in the correct order to unlock the
That core
combination.
memory.
Yeah,
Yeah, and man, that is crazy. Yeah, man, I wasn't even thinking about that at the time when I said it.
yeah,
I was just saying that like just I think it's just it being 3 a.m. in the morning, and I was just kind of like, oh yeah, but like thinking about what the crowd was saying, like, oh, bo 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 bo, right? Like people calling, chanting your name. And then when you mentioned it, I thought about it and was like, oh yeah, that was like an anime during that time. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then now that you mention it, I can't get that out of my head now. I was like, because I vaguely remember that show, and yeah, being comedy. This but yes, back to like Bo though. I think that was the fight underwhelming. Yeah. Was it not impressive? Yeah. Was it? Does he need to reintroduce wrestling back into his game? Absolutely. because I think wrestling makes him impressive, right? Whether you like him or dislike him,
Hmm.
his wrestling, his wrestling accolades and wrestling acumen, his skills, all that stuff makes him a very impressive fighter and a potential champion of a fighter. Without it, like we saw him with when he was just kickboxing, like, yeah, he did decent and he was able to get the fight, win the fight. But I think as you move up in the division, that level of striking, if you're going into matches with that level of striking and not going to use your best asset, what are we doing here? You know,
Yeah.
uh, because when you look at just the bottom of the top 15, you're looking at Fluffy Hernandez, Shara Bullet, Jack Hermanson. You know what I mean? Like,
Hmm.
and Michelle Pereira. Like, and Michelle Perez is at the bottom. And then it's Shara Bullet. Then it's Fluffy Hernandez. And then it's Jack Hermanson. You know what I mean? Like, could he have a good fight against Sharp Bullet? One would imagine,
I mean,
because he only has one eye
yeah,
and he is all striking and no
yeah,
defense. Um, but he would have to use his wrestling because if he tries to strike with Sharp Bullet, we saw him hit the double
yeah.
back fist on the other guy. That doesn't seem like it'll work. I could see him fighting effectively against Michel Pereira, but Michel Pereira is no slouch. Like he was just on a 7 fight win streak, right?
Hmm.
Sharp Bullet really like fun, dangerous striker. Um, Fluffy Hernandez, I think that's a hard match for Bo because it's a hard match for anybody, really, to be honest. Fluffy Hernandez is one of the people on the come up that I've been telling people about that I was like, hey, this dude is a hard fight for anybody. He's got the submission, his submission game is on lock. And if you're going to approach the fight, if a fight with Fluffy sounds like, oh, you may see it and go, oh man, that seems like a better, like I want to fight someone in the top 15 and that seems like the fight for me. I think that's a bad fight for him. I think it's a great fight for Fluffy.
Yeah.
um, get a lot of the major hype. I think that because if he tries to approach it the same way, where he's like, oh, I'm just not gonna wrestle to avoid the submission game, I don't think his striking is better than Fluffy's.
Yeah. No.
I don't think his striking is better than Michelle Pereira.
Nah.
I don't think his striking is better than Shara Bullet. I don't think his striking is better than Jack Hermanson. I think Jack Hermanson just beat Joe Pyfer, another surging contender. But as you move up, and the challenges are only going to get stiffer as you go up in the division, because then you're taking on guys like Paulo Costa, um, Sean Strickland, DDP, Dricus Duplessis, Izzy Adesanya. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about the top echelon of the division, and if you're doing this, if you're not going to use your best weapon and your best skill set, then what are we doing here? I think that does he have the potential to be champion? Sure. Yeah. But one, you got to use your 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 full skill set because if you're trying to improve your striking, do that during training camp.
Well,
Because
and I think the part that he's missing if he wants to be champion, and why I think he won't achieve it, given everything he's shown so far, is he lacks the mentality of a champion. What champion currently or in the past do you know of that at any point in their career would have such self doubt that they would let an unranked guy get them out of the position that they want to be in, where they're so concerned about what the other guy is doing that they're going to say, "Oh, I'm going to leave my best skill at home in this fight because he's dangerous in one of the positions that I like to be in." They'd never do that. They would go head on and back themselves and say, "I'm the best in the world." It's Ilia Topuria went right into Bryce Mitchell's wheelhouse and submitted him.
Yeah,
Like
you gotta
Topuria
believe in
stood with
yourself.
Holloway,
Yeah,
pointed to the floor, and said, "Let's go." Like the self belief
it's
and
gotta be greater than your disbelief.
yeah, and beyond that, the trust and faith you have to have in your own skills to say that even if it's going bad, I'll turn it around and I'll keep going. Like I I just don't see like there was a couple times where against Brundage, people were saying, "Oh, Bo took a nice shot. He showed he's a fighter." He still hasn't shown me he's a fighter at all.
Yeah, we haven't seen him in a dogfight yet. Like we saw Cyril in a dogfight
It's
against Tai Tuivasa.
and we're seeing how he's responding to adversity just from the crowd, like not even in fight
Yeah,
and
he didn't
he's not
take that
handling it well.
well
No.
at all.
So what's it
Like,
going to be like if the crowd starts getting on his back and he's losing?
uh,
Like what if it's he loses the first round and it's into round 2 and he's not fighting an
the
exciting
overrated
fight?
chance,
Yeah. What's he going to do?
or what happens if he loses his first fight?
Yeah,
The
what then? Because right now the delusion that everything's going great is fine when you're still undefeated and you want a close by numbers kickboxing fight against a fellow grappler. But what are you going to do in fights that matter? In ones where if you take a loss, it's hard to get back there.
yeah, because I think the problem that I had with this fight was that I think we've kind of talked about it a lot, but
Mhm.
the I was gonna say just lost it. The what was it? The post the handling of the post fight.
Mhm.
Whether it was with the media or elsewhere on in interviews, right? Like to go and say, like the media when they talked to him afterwards to say like, oh man, I had a I had a great performance, a dominant performance, at this, at that. Let's not lie to ourselves. Like it's okay to say like, hey, this one was okay or this one was pretty good. I won, I got the win, but there's a lot of things I need to improve on. But I think that let's just not lie to ourselves, because yes, the fight was won, and yes, the fight was won, and you are still undefeated. However, the striking match that he got into was like against a guy who's not known for his striking. Paul Craig is known for his jiu-jitsu and his ground game.
In
I would
fact,
say he's
he's been
in, huh?
I was going to say in fact he's been KO'd a bunch of times by getting involved in the striking when he can't get his jiu-jitsu game going.
Because yeah, exactly. And then with Paul Craig, right? He's a really great submission guy, and you saw when he got hit the times he did get rocked in I think the one of the rounds, but you see him strike, and he did take most of Bo Nichols' punches, and it's like okay, if you 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 had a very underwhelming striking performance against a guy who doesn't have top 15 striking ability. What happens when you move into the top 15? I feel like if this is a gap that isn't crossed or covered, I don't see him making it past. It'll be hard for him to cross into the top five because a lot of them are strikers who really strike.
Hmm.
Think about it. Uh, Dricus, Izzy, Paulo Costa, Sean Strickland. You know what I mean? Like all of them are strikers who also have grappling. Yeah, I think yeah I think yeah he's slowly falling into the Ian Gary kind of like trap or kind of like thing of like uh doing the heel hero trying to be face slash heel type thing and then like everything's great when they love you but as soon as the first sign of adversity comes it's to kind of like take it out on the fans, take it out on the media, take it out on the commentary, but in a like generally like fairly nice way, but being like, oh y'all are drunk idiots, oh they don't know what to talk about. I'm kind of surprised, I'm kind of shocked because my team told me I was doing great. Of course your team's gonna tell you did great. That's your team.
Yeah.
So yeah, it just we'll see what's to come from him. We'll see if he'll go if it will get a heel bow, but I think yeah he needs some work. I think he um would you prefer to see him fight another unranked guy, or would you want to see him fight someone in the top 15? Because I think
Um.
if he gets pushed too fast, he will burn out. You know what I mean? Like, I think that top 15 is a very tough test, and you don't want to lose 2-0, go 0-2, 0-3. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I probably would just because I think he needs a reality check in terms of where he's at. Although even saying that it's tough because he speaks out of both sides of his mouth in terms of bigging up how awesome he is at grappling and whoever the guys he has beefs with in the division, how he'd smoke them. But then at the other side of his mouth, he says, "Yeah, I mean, you know, I really just got to keep evolving, and I'm still just at the beginning of my journey and things like that." It's like you can't yell at DC for saying you're not ready for Kamzat when you're over here going, "Yeah, I'm just getting this experience." And Paul Craig's such a tough guy. Like Paul Craig's lost like 3 of his last 5, maybe 4, and he's unranked. So if you consider that challenge super tough, then I'm gonna apply that to the rest of the top 15 and go, oh, you must think that those guys are mountains that are almost insurmountable if you're gonna say that Paul Craig is this super tough challenge as he is right now. So I think maybe a reality check is needed, but I never know where to sit with the guy because I don't know who he's trying to be today. I just don't get it with him.
Yeah, and that was the point I was gonna bring up earlier. Great wrestler, great potential wrestler, but the thing I think my qualm is I don't know where he stand. What is the character he's trying to do? What is the? I feel like you can't. I think you start to see the overrid type thing is because you build your fan base, right?
Mm.
I think that I think whether it's boxing, kickboxing, MMA, pro wrestling, I think it's very hard to be both heel and face, villain and victim. You know what I mean? It's like you gotta have to pick a struggle,
Mm.
and we're starting to see how will he bounce back from this first negative press conference. Does he go full like all out heel and be like, oh, the media doesn't know what they're talking about, blah 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 blah, or does he tries to improve it, right? It's just I think there's a lot of tough fights for him in the top 15 because, like, even on the bottom half, right? I think that, yeah, I just, based on that last performance, we'll see. I don't, yeah, I was just it was very underwhelming because I think that, yeah, you can't, but I think that you also saw kind of like what happens. Oh, you kind of like talk a big game. If you're going to talk a big game, there also needs to be backup behind that. Or the fans will be like, ah, you know what I mean?
Mm.
Yeah, I think he needs the wrestling. I think, yes, work on your striking, but make sure you keep it wrestling because without that,
You're just some guy.
yeah, it's like, yeah, that's like if Alex with no power, Cyril without athleticism. You know what I mean? There's just like everyone has a gift, and it's up to you to use your. You know what I mean? Like use your best ability. It's you're fighting the best in the world. You want to win. You got to use your best abilities when you're going against the best. Because if you really are like the best wrestler, he's not the best grappler. Yeah, but we'll see how he moves forward with that. We'll see how things progress with the Charles Oliveira and Michael Chandler. We'll see how things progress with Tom Aspinall and John Jones. That's our time. That's our show. It's been a long episode. It's been a good one. Um, Sorry for the late night rambles, but we hope you guys enjoyed listening. We enjoyed making it. But yeah, check us out next time. Hope you enjoyed it. Um, yeah, that's all we got. Have a great evening. Do great things. Chase your dreams. Bye.